Imagine if you could get every sound that you need for a track just out of a single patch with a little bit of intuition and maybe using a tool like either rolling sampler or just setting up a resampling channel so where you can record long moments of sounds. I might have a solution for you. If you've already purchased Requiem, which is my latest phase plant preset pack, then for one, thank you. But two, I want to make sure that you have an understanding about how to use this stuff because this isn't your typical preset pack. Even though this is technically an advertisement, I do want to kind of convey the idea about going beyond the preset and going beyond just trying to take something for face value. And for me, I kind of have like an anti-version of that because this stuff is designed to give you a lot more mileage than just one specific kind of sound that might change an LFO rate or something. There's nothing wrong with that. I love those kinds of presets, but for me, I'm just like, I always want something more. So this, or patches like this that I've made, do multiple different kinds of bass. They do keys and pads depending on how you use it. It does percussion, and with a little bit of elbow grease, you can also even get kicks and snares out of this that sound very organic. So I'm going to demo this patch for you very quickly and show you how you can get all the sounds, and then I'm going to show you how you can start pulling instruments from this and then start to pull percussion. And I've got a couple of racks set up that will kind of get you in the realm of making a kick / snare. I've got tons of tutorials on that stuff about how to do it, and then I have even further research, if you will, on my masterclasses for ARCANUM members. So everything that you want to know from my channel regarding how to use this stuff is here. It's not just a grab bag. So with that being said, if you don't know who I am, my name is Alckemy. I don't know everything, but I am trying to be more efficient at what it is that I'm doing and put my time into like not being like, oh, now I need to design a kick, now I need to design a snare, now I need to do this, now I need to do this. This is kind of aimed to solve as many sonic problems as possible. So without further ado, let's talk about the different applications that you can use with this. So let's go ahead and start off with something very typical. If I have this turned over here, then we can give ourselves the old razzle dazzle respace. And no matter what, every time I push a key, it's going to do something slightly different with the timbre. So what that means is I can at any point in time throw something that could be interesting in here into either a sampler or pull it out via the rolling sampler, which I'll show you shortly. But that's the thing with this, is that it's never going to be the same sound. Which in my mind is a good thing, because what that means is anytime that I do some kind of pitch roll or something, the timbre is going to be different. That was kind of squarish. So now what I can do is I can start to add stuff like these macros here to change the sound. I can even add these stacked delays for some interesting texture. Now, if I move this macro over to the left, we're going to create something that's kind of like a donk. Now, I can leave this as is and show you a couple of examples of that. And maybe some of those are kind of cool. So what I can do is take all of those, and we're using C, by the way, so it's a pretty low bass note. That's probably as low as you want to go, really. But even still, if I turn on this metal, now what this is going to do is it's going to add some kind of texture to it at the very beginning of the sound. And part of the reason why sometimes it's a good idea to bounce things in C is because at any point in time, let's say I've got all of these, I can actually just do this for fun, but I'm going to merge them. And then I'm going to just drag these into a sampler. And now because of that, which I'm going to show you this in a couple of different examples, but because this is tuned to C, what I can do with this is that's kind kind of cool. Well, let's say I wanted to make a reset of that. Maybe I could just throw this into a loop here and set this to ping pong. Or maybe I can change the loop to maybe something kind of over here. Set the play. This is going to be a lot easier for me to do, but I can do something kind of like this and move this over. And now we've got a whole different kind of sound. And we can do this with all of the different sounds that we had actually pulled out. Now, you don't have to do this in C. You can pitch it to whatever root key you want, but because by default samplers usually are like, it's C, sometimes that's just the easier way to go. You don't have to do it in the sense of a sampler either. You can kind of just maybe bounce out some stuff that is in the realm of pitch bends. So as you can see, every single time I hit this key, I'm getting something completely different. So I think you get the point. But moving on, let's go ahead and maybe find something that is in the realm of either keys or pads. So I can leave the delays on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the vibes macro, and we can see what we get. I might want to move this wavetable a little bit into a different direction. Maybe a little bit of distortion can be good. So on one end, this sounds really nice and it sounds really pretty, but because there is a matter of randomness that's added to it, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you try to make chord progressions just with the sound alone, unless if you've got some creative use for it, in which case, ignore me and do your thing, G. But that being said, if you kind of just hit C a few times, that was a nice little pad. Maybe we can get some bells. I like when stuff just kind of falls into place like that. Maybe we can initialize the attack by using that same metal. Well, then we can pull this out and do the same thing that we were talking about from before and just be like, yo, look, this works. And then throw that into a sampler, and then we have a bunch of different instruments that we can choose from. So for example, if I were to throw this in here and turn this up, and I'm actually going to already set this to loop and stuff, because sometimes you can end up getting some really interesting sounds just by setting up some loop points like this that actually have a little bit of silence in between, because it almost is going to seem like you're getting some kind of, I don't even know, like an arpeggiator or something, which is sometimes really nice. So let's see what that sounds like just from this sound. I'm going to set the start point here. And maybe we can even do something kind of like this. We can put a filter on it. Sounds really nice. What would happen if we put some kind of big sky on it? One of my favorite reverbs is the chorale, or sorry, favorite uses of this is the chorale, because it makes everything sound kind of like a choir. My favorite reverb right now is crystalline. We'll be talking about that in a future video, but as of now, Strymon Big Sky is pretty killer. Not bad, right? So within this, we can also get some percussion. So if I wanted to change that, we just need to find something that's closely related to something that starts with P, because as you'll see, there's a bunch of patches on here that have different sayings like perk, proc, percolate, or perk donk, or whatever. It's just a means to be funny and let you all know that this is me who made the patch. That being said, if we were to play some stuff, check this out. So there's a bunch of stuff in here that I thought was already pretty nice. So what I'm going to do is see if there's anything in here that could be interesting enough to make a kick and snare or snare out of. And I will say that when it comes into this, you will have to probably do the most fishing, because sometimes it just takes a while for you to get something that sounds like a kick and or a snare / rim shot. But once you have something like that, I mean, if you're trying to go for something minimal, then you don't even need to process it. But let's see. Okay, so that's something that can be something relative towards a snare. And this guy right here might be usable for something kind of like a kick. So what I'll do is I'll make this really short, and then I've got this rack over here that says kick, and so I can just put this over here and isolate this. And I don't know what this is going to sound like, but I know that this is my main kick building chain, which I've got a bunch of classes on or a bunch of videos on. Just look up Alckemy drums or something to get a clue about what is about to happen. But our initial sound is something like this. And I don't know how this is going to sound, but let's see what this does. Okay, so that's not too bad, but if I were to maybe manipulate this just a little bit, maybe with a frequency shifter or something, then we might be able to get something a little bit closer to what we're looking for. All right, not too bad. So now we might be able to actually pull this a little bit more up. As you can see, that's doing quite a bit already. But with that being said, we might be able to boost this up a little bit. Makes it kind of boxy, but that's okay. I actually like that because that gives it a little bit more top end. So, you know, with just a little bit of processing, you can actually turn that into something that's reminiscent of a kick, or at least that's what I do. And then we can find something that's relative to a snare and kind of do the same process here. So that probably would work pretty well. So we'll just toss this in our snare rack. You can see here that it's almost the exact same thing minus a couple of tricks. So I'm actually going to turn those tricks off, but let's see what this sounds like. It's already pretty snare-like. If we turn the vocoder and the crystalline on, we want to back off of this just a little bit. And then what we can even do is increase the high end of this just a bit. So before everything, we had something kind of like this. I'm going to mess around with that here in a second too, because I actually like what we have already, but you can see that we're making some at least decent drums. That's even better. So together we've got something that is a kick. I should put this on a bar, but it's okay. and a snare. And we can just solo these two. I mean, as a layer, it's not bad. It's definitely a starting point to where, you know, you can either beef this up, or you can go through a resampling process and either A, find other kicks and snares or something of the sort, or B, use these as fundamentals and find other ways to kind of supplement whatever it is that you're looking for. Or this is something that I would need to cover in a different video, but like, why not try a bunch of different sounds? So what does this sound like? Let's just toss it in and see if it's any good. I meant to grab this, sorry. Let's pull that up to the snare. I don't know if this is going to be any good or not, but maybe if we were to make the tail a little bit shorter. Not too bad. What's this? This is like a nice little knock. Perfect. So what if we were to maybe even bounce that out, and then now we can use this as a layer. So you see that through this process that we have, it's very easy to continue to build off of things. So I know that this isn't an interesting drum beat by any means, but if we have something that where we are doing something kind of like this, very, very simple beat, I think that's where I want to end it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's supposed to be 1 over. Sorry for, I like doing things live and candid so that way you can actually see what it is that I'm doing. But now that we have that, we've got an off time measure, and we can maybe try to find something that is somewhat percussive. So as a means of like having some kind of top line or something. It's kind of cool. It almost sounds like it has a melody to it. So maybe we can be like, dun, 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 dun. So maybe something like. And then we can find some other stuff to kind of layer under this. So maybe what I want to do is a little bit further, which I don't want to do this too much because, again, I'm not necessarily trying to make a whole track in front of you right now, which a lot of times, at least right now, I'll be honest with you, I've been running into a lot of roadblocks with my creative block. But as a means of showing a concept, I do think that some of you out there will be able to take these ideas a lot further than me. But let's see what this sounds like just for fun. So maybe not this sound, and maybe not this sound, but we can stretch that out. So like a. So imagine if we took some of those basses now, so like a. Oh, those are the C's that we took. Let's go ahead and transpose this 1, 2, 3 to like D sharp or something. And we can kind of just use this as like a downbeat or something. And maybe this isn't appropriate to kind of get in the way of the staccato sound that we have, but we might even be able to just put a low pass on it. Still a bass, right? And it's not about like, oh, it needs to be used like vanilla. It's about, oh, how do we use this as a means or a jump off point to get into writing a track? So maybe something like this. Maybe even right here. So like a. can do is maybe find some cool sounds via this donkeries, or maybe what we could also do is something kind of like an impact. So now if I were to take this multipass right here and put it before this, and this is just like, hey, like go beyond, but if I were to do that, check this out, the vibes now is going to interact with the pork, and we're going to create some kind of impact. That's kind of cool. So, you know, maybe what we can do is duplicate this. Hold on one second. I'm going to move this over. And then instead of us using this sound, we can kind of create a variation in between. And we can kind of move this over and just kind of let that fly, or maybe even use that as a fill. So that was a little bit too late. It's supposed to be here, I believe. So maybe what we even want to do is you know, just a simple little groove or something. And then we can start to mix and match and start to find other cool little ways to make this more interesting. That's kind of cool. Maybe we can do something like... maybe even... And now with maybe some of this, we can actually pull something from these C's into here. Maybe. And then we can actually change this into something. And now we can use this as a groove to repeat that 4 times. And then maybe what we can do right after that is, sorry, that needs to be here. I think. Okay, so now that we've actually got something kind of going on here, what I might want to do is move this over to this guy. And now that we have something like that, we can duplicate this again. And then what I can do is I can duplicate this guy. I have done zero mixing, zero sidechaining or whatever. And again, this is all just purely conceptual, but just as a means of some live writing, I can change the loop and maybe the octave. So I can set this up a bit. Okay, now we can maybe we can go back into this percussion or something and add something to it. So that's kind of nice. Okay, easy. We can use something like this and go here, and maybe for that second round we can actually create some hats or a shaker or really whatever. That doesn't really matter, but because of that, you can kind of see how we have taken just a single patch and created at least a beat out of this, right? And am I thinking that this is the most compelling thing ever? Of course not, but you know, I'm trying to demonstrate something within the means of a 30-minute video. But now, as you can hear, this doesn't always match up. So what we might want to do is just move this over to be in line with the main hits of this. So maybe we might not even want to have one there. And then maybe for this one, we can move that over. And then for the rest of the duration, maybe on this guy, we can have this here. And what I'm doing is I'm just using this as a guide to play along with the rest of what we've got going on. But now that we have that, this should be playing a little bit nicer, if anything. So you know, what'd be really cool is maybe if every once in a while we had some kind of respace fill or something. So let's go ahead and pull this back. And now, without opening up a different patch, we can just pull off of this and this. Maybe we can keep that actually, and change this to a more harmonically rich wavetable. We can even maybe pull off of the filters. Let's see what that does. I think that was the one. I was kind of looking for something that like held a little bit of sustain with some movement that was just like enough to tell the world that I am pissed off. So I think that's the one right here. So maybe right here. So now what we can do is say, all right, we can make a little space right here and so as you can hear, we might want to push this a little bit forward so that way the song or the sound doesn't kind of. And then what we can do is maybe layer that to symbolize that an impact is coming in. But as you can see, like I've already sketched an idea, and this is usually the most difficult part, at least for me. So now that I've kind of gotten something a little bit easier to work with. maybe what we can even do is add some kind of delay here. And even still, I'm already off to making decisions. Like, again, this isn't my favorite track. It's not, you know, the coolest thing that I've ever made, but this is generally how I make music now. And it is fun. So I don't know. I think that I've already driven the point home, but let's just maybe spend a couple more minutes on this and see where it can go. Maybe what we can even do is change this into something else. So at any point in time, we can always add a more sustained bass or something like that as well. But what would happen if we bounce this out? And then we pitched it all up. Obviously, it does sound a little bit broken, right? So what we might be able to do with this before we move on into the next one is we might be able to change this and go into slice mode and just set this to none. Which, that sounds kind of cool, but imagine if we were to make it a little bit more interesting, maybe perhaps with a chorus or something. And then maybe we used some kind of really short delay on here to achieve a very specific kind of slapback type of sound. So now we've got some contrast in between these two different call and responses. So that's kind of cool too. I wasn't expecting that. So now what I can do is maybe even we can maybe even find something that might be more we can just maybe find an easy triad or a sustain chord or something. So maybe like that's a little too happy for me, but yeah, that could be nice. So maybe we can even play with a loop or something. Change the start point, so that sounds pretty badass. Now let's see if that fits within our track, and maybe we might need to mix it in a little bit or something, but I'm just playing a sustain chord of D sharp, A sharp, and B. I think that's a sustain chord. So let's see if maybe we can kind of use that for a little bit of atmosphere. Now, I like it more dry during the main section, but who's to say that we don't do something like this? Now from here, what we can do is maybe even take something like this and open this up, and then right here, maybe right here, we can turn it off, and even just do something like this. Then we can grab something from here, and I'm going to be very lazy with this just to kind of think about wrapping this up, but we can grab this and stretch this out kind of like so, and then I can double click this, hit Command J, and now I'm going to grab the pitch of this, and we're going to use this as a riser, maybe to like 12. And something that we can also do for funsies is we can go Command B. So now the pitch information is going to be there. And I might have wanted to do this before I balanced it, but whatever. We're going to have some fun. We can hit Option and Command on this on the audio event like this. And then we'll find a piece that is more conducive to us. And we're going to raise this up kind of like so. We're going to right click, go slice and place on the onsets, undo, slice at repeats, my bad, then grab all of them, and we're just going to fade them in, or sorry, we're going to make them more like staccato. So now we can kind of fade this in like this. And maybe what we can do is kind of move this over to the side before that becomes there. And now for some reason we didn't turn that off early enough. What's going on here? We can even use something here. Something kind of like this. Let's see what that sounds like. That sounds kind of sweet. Come back to that intro in just a second. But within this, we can grab some kind of Pro Cube. Then we can add another reverb to this, like ROM or so. And there we go. And now from this, we can kind of maybe even do some fun stuff too, to where we go pitch. We can maybe just destroy this and have some fun with it. And I hope that you're kind of getting the point to where we've literally made every single thing in this beat out of a single patch. Like, yes, there is some work that I've done to it. Yes, there are some other, things that have kind of happened. But the fact of the matter is that everything that I've resampled has come from Faceplant. I think that we broke it. Yeah, we broke it. So unfortunately, Bitwig broke in that way, but that's okay, because what I'm going to do is just a very quick backup plan where I'm going to paste this and stretch this out and reverse this. Actually, no, I'm going to hit Command J. Now I'm going to reverse this and stretch this out, kind of like so. And now we should be very close to where we started. So we can go like this and make this pitch rise up. And I try not to worry about that kind of stuff too much whenever something doesn't go my way or whenever something kind of just craps out, unless if it's like the coolest sound ever. But these are just placeholders to give you an example. So now for some reason the entire thing isn't playing, and I don't know why that is. Okay, we'll take it. So let's go ahead and pull that back into ROM. Now what we're going to do is we are going to turn this on. Sorry, other way around. We're going to keep this on, turn it off, turn it back on. There we go. Maybe turn it down a bit. And now we've got ourselves a little beat sketch. So if you all like that demonstration, again, I didn't know what to expect making this tune, or really what kind of was supposed to come from this, but I seem to be pretty okay with it just as a means of candid writing and not trying to, you know, have something incredibly amazing prepared. This gives you hopefully some kind of insight into how I usually write in the first place, and also kind of alludes to just a very simple way to sketch some beats together from a single patch. So if you found any of this interesting, you can get my patches at alckemy.com. You can sub to the channel or consider becoming an ARCANUM member if you want to figure out how to make them. I've got a lot of resources available for you just for different kinds of writing and approaches to creativity. And I'm really just here to improve, and I'm here to help you get better as well. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And let me know if you have any questions. I will see you guys in the next video.